Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today's build is the Werebear Earthquake build. Now this is a new build, this isn't an updated one before patch 8.1 you weren't even able to do this. There is a new unique in the game that casts Earthquake for you 100% of the time after you use a non-channeled movement skill, and charge is one of those skills. And so every time you charge in Werebear form, it allows you to proc Earthquake. Now you don't actually cast it, it's an insta cast, so it doesn't stop you at all. And then number two, it ignores Earthquake's mana cost and ignores any cooldowns associated with it, which means this is a very zoom build. Every 1.5 seconds you just zoom around with the charge, it does Earthquake, kills everything in a large area. You can still swipe if you want, however you can just run through monos extremely quickly by just keep charging forward over and over again. It kills bosses quick, it does huge amounts of damage, and it's likely not to stick around for too long. It's probably going to be fixed, and when it does get fixed, I would assume that it would somehow still use the cooldown associated with Earthquake, so you wouldn't be able to spam it like we are here, especially with the 3 initial hit version. Now, this is 100% uptime Werebear. You can stay in it forever, even as we have it built here. There are multiple ways to build it, but the way we have it set up here is kind of mana heavy, but you get it all back with Entangling Roots, but it allows for the most damage. Alright, let's go ahead and get into the skills. For skills, I'm running Ice Thorns, Werebear Form with +2 levels, Earthquake, Swipe with +2 levels, and Entangling Roots. Now for Ice Thorns, we have it set up so that when you get hit while in your Werebear form, there'll be a chance for it to proc. We have 3 points in Dagger Thorns, 2 points in Bramble Armor, so there's a 20% chance when you get hit to cast it, and 4 points in Spell Thorns for another 20% chance when hit. So there's a 40% chance every time that you're hit while in Werebear that you will proc an Ice Thorns cast, 1 point in Anim Affiliate, 1 point in Thorn Shield, and 4 points in Bulb Shield, so now there's a 40% chance on your 40% chance to proc for a recast. And then we have 4 points in Bark Shield and 1 point in Eternal Protection. For Werebear, we have this set up for mana efficiency, crit back, charge, roots, stun chance. We got all sorts of things in here. So we have 2 points in Your Sane Heart. If you don't have a level 22 Werebear, this build is perfectly fine. Just take these 2 points out of Your Sane Heart, as you are just getting a little extra defense with this and you don't need it for the build to perform. We have 1 point in Intimidating War, 2 points in Ironhide, 1 point in Woodland Bear. This will proc Entangling Roots whenever you cast War. This is what will give you your mana back. Now it says it adds a 15 mana cost, but due to all of our mana efficiency, War itself only costs 5 mana total. So you can see how you'd, with multiple patches of Roots, be able to get all of your mana back rather quickly. 4 points in Rip and Tear. 1 point in Unnerving Blow, so that when you do use Swipe, your critical strikes will refund mana to you. 3 points in Hightail to have the charge cooldown reduced to its minimal amount. 1 point in Overwhelm adds a 10 mana cost to charge, but it has a guaranteed stun on all enemies on arrival. Of course, charge only costs 2 mana because we have a huge amount of mana efficiency, so that 10 mana cost is actually only 2. And 2 points in Skull Crush. This gives you 100% more hit damage against stunned enemies, which normally would mean that you would charge in, have a perma stun for the 0.7 seconds, and then you would hit them with Swipe and get in a really good crit. Now what happens is you charge in, you stun them, Earthquake goes off, Earthquake gets its 3 hits, but that first hit is against a stunned enemy, and if it crits, it's hitting for about 50,000 damage, which is absolutely ridiculous. 2 points in Pummel, 2 points in Food for Thought, and 1 point in Your Sane Wisdom. This is for that 300% mana efficiency. Without this is going to be a lot more expensive, and you probably won't be able to have the charge cost. There are other ways to set this up. Again, you don't have to take the stun with charge. You can take these 3 points out. If you do that, charge will actually be a 0 costing skill. And when it procs Earthquake, that is a 0 costing skill, which means you can stay in Werebear forever if you proc out of the roots, out of the charge, and then you don't even have to go down this side of the tree, and you can do anything else in the tree that you wanted. And you literally will just go around. You'll do less damage that way, but it is doable that way. For Earthquake, we have this set up to try and get as much damage out of it as possible, along with some stun chance. We have 4 points in Rupture for initial hit damage, 1 point in Seismic Smash, so all Aftershock damage is now initial hit damage, 1 point in Seismic Tide, so the initial hit now occurs 3 times. Now this gives it a 2-second cooldown and a plus 50 mana cost. However, when you proc Earthquake while in Werebear due to a movement skill thanks to the unique, you bypass both of those. No mana cost, no cooldown. 3 points in Crushing Wake for more Aftershock damage that's turned into initial wave damage. 4 points into Concussion for more initial hit damage. 1 point in Staggering Force for more initial hit damage. Stun chance, stun duration. This adds a 6-second cooldown, but again, that's ignored. 1 point in Outbreak and 5 points in Shatterquake gives you 150% more damage against chilled or frozen enemies. Now, we do have 100% chill chance, which means when we charge in and hit with charge, we apply chill. We also do a stun. The stun gives 100% more damage, Shatterquake gives 150% more damage, that's 250% more damage, and the Earthquake goes off right off the bat. If you get a crit with that, that's why it does so much damage, is because you get both of those multiplicative numbers, which are huge, and it hits really, really hard. Even if it doesn't crit, it still hits really hard, but the crit does even more. For Swipe, we have 22 points here. We have 4 points in Aspect of the Panther, 1 point in Feline Hunter, 2 points in Maul, 4 points in Ambush, 4 points in Apex Predator, 3 points in Way of the Hunt, and 4 points in Wingarian Reach. And then for Entangling Roots, we have it set up to heal, last as long as possible, give you a nice damage boost, and to give mana back. We have 5 points in Nourish, 1 point in Bountiful Harvest, 1 point in Mana Bloom. This gives you 1 mana back per second per patch, and with 1 point in Roots of Lap, you're supposed to get 3 patches. However, right now, it's bugged. You're getting more like 6 or 7 at a time, and with max duration, that means they're overlapping, so you actually have 12 or 13 on the screen for a second or two, which is just a massive amount. We have 5 points in Lasting Briar for more duration, 1 point in Reclamation, 3 points in Grove Master for 90% larger Entangling Roots areas of effect, and 3 points in Imbued Sap for 90% more damage, or increased damage. For passives, I have 35 points in the Primalist base class, with 1 point in Gift of the Wilderness, 8 points in Natural Attunement, 4 points in Wisdom of the Wild, 5 points in Hunter's Restoration, 1 point in Primal Strength, 6 points in Survival of the Pack, and 10 points in Ancestral Weaponry. You don't have to do this 10 points, however, it gives you 50 melee cold damage with every attack. So it's quite a bit of base damage. It's like throwing on a whole nother weapon. Now it is cold, so you don't stack it as much, but it is melee damage, so it gets boosted from all your melee increases. So it does do decent damage, and it will add a bit to your overall damage. 0 points in the Beastmaster, 10 points in the Shaman, with 8 points in Shamanic Infusion, and 2 points in Tempest Form. And then 66 points in the Master Druid, with 1 point in Blood Claws, 6 points in Veil Warrior, 7 points in Barkskin, 8 points in Spirit Claws, 10 points in Blossoming Vines, 10 points in Hideskin, 6 points in Oaken Form, 8 points in Ursane Maul, 8 points in Soothing Slaughter, and 2 points in Briar Guard. Now, there are definitely a lot of different ways you can go. The skill tree or passive tree to me is actually really underwhelming, so feel free to move your points around. We went for lots of healing effectiveness, lots of health, because you always have the roots healing. You'll have a big pool of health to kind of reduce the one-shots, and then, of course, as much critical strike as possible and a little bit of free armor. But again, move it around how you want. There is some flat damage that you can get in here. You could have Ice Thorns have a higher chance to proc if you wanted. There's a few different things that you could do. For items and idols, there are 2 types of idols that I am wearing. One is the increased health. The more health you have, the less likely it is that you'll be one-shot, especially since we don't have capped resistances in this build. And then we have increased healing effectiveness idols, so that the roots heals you for a lot more health, which is going to increase your survivability. You have a lot of leeches, well, but having healing and leech work together is always nice. And then for uniques, so there's the new 2-hand Bulldog's Wrath. You get this from the new fire timeline in the top left of the right after the Emperor timeline on your end of time map. This gives you a huge amount of melee physical damage, increased melee physical damage, added melee fire damage. It gives you a huge percentage chance to shred armor on hit. If your hits are coming from Earthquake, that armor shred is changed to Ignite. So it's not all your hits, it's just the ones from Ignite that will be converted. So when you charge in, your first hit is going to apply armor shred right off the bat, which is nice. It's also going to then stun the enemy, give you 100% more damage against stunned enemies. It's also going to apply chill, and then when that happens, Earthquake will go off. Earthquake will be applying Ignite on top of doing really good damage. It's also converted to fire, so it scales with fire damage. And of course you have the 82 melee fire damage here, which is more than your melee physical damage, which allows it to do a lot of damage. Now in order to get a 100% chill chance, you can only put chill on hit on your weapons now, and unfortunately this weapon doesn't have any. But we did find some uniques. The Hollow Finger comes with a up to 70% chance to chill on hit. Now you can do just one ring if you have a 70% roll, and you can get some chill chance inside of your passive tree that'll get you close enough to 100% that you'll have it almost all of the time. However, I just threw on 2 of these rings. We have one for 50% and one for 60%. This also threw on some more melee necrotic damage. Not that that's going to be a huge boost, but it was a little bit. But this is going to allow you to make sure you get that chill on the very first hit when you charge in, so that Earthquake does the maximum amount of damage. Then for the crafted items, we have some wild armor on the chest piece, which gives critical strike multiplier while transformed, vitality, increased health, and increased armor. Wearing a horned crow for the percent of damage leached as health on hit. We have +2 to Werebear Form. We have cooldown recovery, increased health, and armor. The Jade Amulet with increased healing effectiveness, physical damage, health, and chance to apply frailty on hit. For the belt, we have increased fire damage, increased physical damage, 8% increased health, and hybrid health. For the gloves, attunement, attack speed, necrotic resistance, endurance threshold. Obviously those are not the most min-maxed for this build. However, it's what we have and it's what we're wearing. I would recommend that you can basically put anything else you want here. If you want to get some critical strike chance, you want to add more health to your health pool, you can do that. The endurance really doesn't help you too much in this build because you have such a high health pool. For the boots, we have the Heoborean boots with mana, vitality, hybrid health, and increased armor. And then for the relic, we have the one we were wearing on our Beastmaster earlier, the Blood Catcher, which has +2 to swipe, 15% critical strike multiplier, some endurance percentage, and flat threshold. For the character sheet, you can see we are not capped in resistances at all. In fact, we have 0 fire, 0 physical, and 0 void. However, you'll still go really far with this build. You have a decent amount of armor for 34% damage reduction, and then you also have some decent damages here. You have some critical strike multipliers, your physical damage, you know, it's a fire skill, but you do have a bunch of melee physical damage on it as well. So even though it's converted to fire, physical damage will still help a little bit. We got some melee damage and just a lot of health and a decent amount of mana. And then for the skill rotation and how I use the build, and to show you an example. So once in Werebear Form, I throw Charge and I throw War, both on auto cast. And then all you're going to do is charge around and cast Roots. Now you can see here on this particular one we had exactly 3. There's 4, and you can see that you're getting more than the 3 Roots that you should have. Here's another 4, and you can see my mana stays full. So when we charge, boom, you can see there's 200,000 damage crit. And that's all you do. You can see that we're charging massively. You just have Earthquake keep going off and off. And then of course you can also do Ravage, which will increase the amount of damage that dummy is going to take. You can see we're hitting for 250,000. There's a 300,000 damage hit. And what you can also do is use Swipe. And so you can attack with Swipe. You can get some really good crits with that. Again, keep the Ravage going. Keep everything going. Boom, doing 400, almost 500,000 damage hits, which is just crazy. And just like that, that's all you do. Charge around, swipe around. And again, you can see our mana is staying pretty full. If you start to run low on mana, again, you just here, stay in the roots a little bit. Boom, we're back up to like 5 or 6 roots, which is just weird. And then boom, your mana is full again. Alright, let's go ahead and get into some gameplay.